Welcome to the Crystal Coach Show with me, your host, Anahata, helping you live every day with clarity, guidance, and practical wisdom. Are you feeling overwhelmed, anxious, maybe disconnected? Do you ever feel like you don't know how to live a life of peace and joy? I am Anahata Roach, the Crystal Coach, and during this show, we channel divine wisdom through stories of service, spirituality, and stones for self-care. The Crystal Coach Show leaves you with a feeling of connection and the clarity it takes towards becoming the best version of yourself as you hear from thought leaders and many others to help you ignite the crystalline nature of who you really are. Stay tuned. The Crystal Coach Show starts now. Hello and welcome to the Crystal Coach Show. I'm your host, Anahata Roach, and I am the Crystal Coach. So I have a question. When did unalive become a noun to describe death? Why are we so uncomfortable talking about death? This is the completion of the soul cycle on Earth. Gosh, we plan, we prepare, and we celebrate birth. Yet the time of transition back into the light is rarely spoken about, let alone for which we prepare, at least in modern worlds. And in indigenous cultures, it keeps going. But in this modern civilization, it's kind of gotten put under the rug and become almost a four-letter word, right? So today, I'm talking with my guest, Diane Krogorno. She's a counselor, a bereavement specialist, and a licensed social worker with more than 40 years experience, and 20 plus of them within the hospice setting. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Diane has more than 40 years of experience as a counselor and educator, working with groups, children, couples, and families. For 20 plus years of those, she has been working in the hospice setting with children and their families as a certified bereavement specialist and expressive therapist. Diane is also certified in alternate practices such as emotional freedom techniques, tapping, and emotrance, and emotion code, and ask and receive technique. Within those roles, Diane has helped to create and develop special programming for bereaved groups. Her clients and colleagues describe her as an excellent listener, a calm presence, often able to connect the dots for individuals and in groups in an extraordinary way. She brings the skill into her therapy sessions, finding and sharing resources that support meaning making, a common human need. Diane grew up in Lima, Peru, which was her home for most of her childhood. She believes that her bilingual and bicultural experience paved the way for her to become a professional counselor, understanding that there are always at least two ways of viewing and sharing the world at all times. And it reflects her respect for the beauty and wisdom of all cultures. During her counseling career, Diane has served clients from more than 20 countries so far and loves that this is part of her diversity story, as she has supported all of them in feeling heard and in finding their strengths. Over the years, Diane has mentored 2 generations of mental health therapists, which is a joy that continues to feed her spirit. Welcome to the Crystal Coach Show, Diane.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. Honored to be here.
Good. Yeah, yay. So today, you and I, we're going to have a conversation, and we're going to explore and share stories of the sacredness and beauty of end-of-life transitions, which really have allowed those left behind to feel that their loved ones completed their journey with grace, ease, and lasting joy. I think we're going to be talking about some things that include education and awareness and process, rituals, music, art, ceremony, all of these things to celebrate a soul's homecoming. And just if you're listening to this podcast, I just want to assure that if you are grieving the loss of a loved one's physical presence, this episode is for you. If you or someone you know or love are on a medical journey with a terminal prognosis, this episode is for you. If you have been curious about the green choices available for how the body is treated after the soul leaves, this episode is for you. And if you're looking for reassurance that the soul is eternal, there'll be plenty of inspiring evidence. So hang in with us for this hour and get to know death as a good word and not one to be feared or unmentioned. No. Let's try to unravel the taboo around speaking about death, right? I mean, when did the fear of death take over our collective psyche? How did we get to the point that we're even censored for even saying the word on social media platforms? We use crazy euphemisms like unalived or he unalived himself. I mean, how different is this than we talking about births and the impending births and everything's really excited and approaching death is kind of whispered. Our ancestors did embrace and honor death. And the bedridden died at home, and the viewings were at home, and the burial was, on church grounds or in deceased property. As I mentioned before, many indigenous peoples around the world still observe these kinds of customs. But modern advancements, I believe, especially in medicine, kind of took the sacredness of death away, and it framed it as a medical event. Wouldn't you agree, Diane?
Yes.
Yeah. So, because the focus on prolonging life rather than the quality of life kind of turns dying into a clinical event and not a life that's well lived or loved. So anyway, I have a question for you. Within your client practice, what is the general feeling that you see around death?
Well, I think it varies tremendously depending on a person's spiritual belief. To me, is an important part of it, and the community, their family, their community, their spiritual beliefs, and the age of the people who we're talking about.
Yeah.
Their life experience, their cultural tradition. Because even though it's true what you've said in terms of in general, the medical model has made a strong impact, and a lot of it in a very positive way as well, because now we do have hospice. But in some of our more traditional cultures, like the American Indian and many others, around the world, it's still more speakable.
Mm.
Like I was witnessing, I was with a family in India many years ago, but the child in the family was doing their handwriting. They were learning how to write, and one of the sentences that they were writing was, "There's everything that is alive. It has a beginning and an ending." We don't do that.
No.
There's death. Death from the very beginning is woven in, and in some of the spiritual cultures in our society also, they're talking about death with children from the beginning as well. So I think it depends on so many factors.
Right,
But
yeah, and how you grew up too. I mean,
absolutely, yes.
for example, if you grew up on a farm, you would be exposed to that life death kind of thing on a regular basis.
Right, yes,
So then that would be an awareness that you would have that, there is a beginning and an end, right?
yes, yeah,
But if you're someone who is kind of isolated from that in the way you grow up and in the way you live your life, uh, it's more of a foreign concept, right?
yes, yeah. I do
Yeah.
want to go back to what you were saying, though, in terms of the cultural piece.
Yeah.
For me, even though I grew up bilingual, I hablo español perfectamente. I have learned so much from some of the Central Americans and Latin Americans, the Mexicans, in working with them over the years, because their celebration of the Day of the Dead, just like the Jewish have the day that they honor their loved ones, the Yahrzeit, they grow up with that. They grow up with honoring it, and plus what you said in terms of the their culture of sometimes being farm cultures, then they're exposed to the nature of
It's nature.
life and death in a different way, right?
Mhm.
But I've learned a lot from the Mexicans and Central Americans, and have thanked them for helping me understand that also and incorporate that. We are learning from them. We're always learning, hopefully, from each other. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, and you're right. You're right, and I think more and more, just because the world is connected through the internet now, we have more opportunities to learn from each other. But yet, there still feels like there's silos within the world. The cultural silos that don't even don't even try to be aware that there's another way to look at it. Do you feel like there's still more fear than curiosity, or have you seen any movement in trends towards a more natural, relaxed approach when talking about death?
Um,
Setting aside the folks that are already used to it, the other kinds of clientele that you have.
yeah, yeah. I think there is more um, curiosity, but then that may be also the people who I attract are people who know that I can have this conversation with them. So I do think that there's curiosity along with the fear.
Mm, mhm,
And
mhm,
owning both of them, and sometimes the curiosity is bigger, sometimes the fear is bigger, and so it's a yes and.
yes, and
Yes, it's a yes and. As much of this conversation is a yes and. Yes,
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah,
There's so many ways to
yes,
experience and to view
yes.
that. But I just I wanted to have this conversation because of my own personal experience with death and dying, those loved ones that I have seen and been with as they passed, and or just before they passed. But not only that, just the overall sense that I get with my clients and with others, that there's just this fear, this is blanket fear, and we've been fed like movies and books and all this sort of stuff, this horror genre, right? Is a fear of death that doesn't it's it's just, I think it's gratuitous, and it keeps us in a lower density,
Mhm.
and I'm all about raising our vibration.
Yes.
So that's why I reached out to you, and I'm so grateful that you're here and you're talking with us today. We're going to take a really quick break, but when we come back, we're going to start talking about the gift of terminal illnesses, as in preparation and goodbyes. Come back. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, oh my
Yep.
goodness, we have got talk radio for all of us.
Really, thank you for blazing the trail for women in talk radio and just being such an inspiration to me and so many other people. What you're doing is so awesome. And, without people like you there to really step out of the box and go for it, I don't know if someone like me would have ever ended up here, but I'm so happy to be here. And I just want to thank you for everything you're doing. You're one of my major inspirations.
Looking for more love, joy, and purpose in your life? Lisa Eve is here to guide you. Through intuitive support, healing, and soulful travel, she empowers you to embrace self-love as the key to happiness. Explore her book, The Love Channel, Finding Your Way to Happiness, available on Amazon. And find daily inspiration at thehappychannel.com. Start living your most radiant, joy-filled life today.
If you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, or in grief, I'm here to help. I'm Faye Lau, intuitive healer and founder of Faye Inspired Healing. Through soul-guided sessions, I help you reconnect with your body's wisdom and inner truth. Whether you're healing from loss, letting go of pain, or rising into elevated energies, my work combines energy clearing, grief support, and spiritual coaching. Schedule a session or learn more at fayeinspiredhealing.com.
Welcome back to the Crystal Coach Show. I'm your host, Anahata, and we are talking today with my guest, Diane Cogorno, who is a licensed accredited bereavement specialist, a licensed social worker and counselor. We are talking about why death is not a four-letter word. And there's a pun there, and of course, it's a play on that, because we know that death, if you look at the letters, it's not a four-letter word. But that's how it's perceived sometimes. And we're talking about the reasons why it could be and what we can do to kind of reframe it in a more positive way. In this segment, we're going to be talking about the gift of a terminal illness, or how you can perceive it as a gift. And the reason I wanted to bring that up is that I have just experienced this gift with a very, very dear soul friend. Soul sister friend? Sister soul friend? Anyway, close connection on a soul level. And my friend was, we were the type of people that we could communicate telepathically, and but we never, you never know. You never know when our time is upon us, right? And the gift of the time to prepare and have closure and say goodbye is something that we don't always get or appreciate, I think, until you have it, right? What happened was that there was she was diagnosed with a very rare kind of disease that didn't respond to any kind of treatment, and given just only a few months. And so within that time frame, she took the news at first as kind of course you'd be in shock, but and then it's like, this is so surreal. But then she's like, I don't have a problem with that. I know where I'm going. I'm going home. So I don't have a lot of fear around that, but I have, some sadness, people that she's leaving behind, right? So that experience of talking with her and listening to her perspective, and actually I got a chance to spend a few days with her about a couple of weeks before she transitioned into bliss. And that was one of the most joyous and sacred times I can't begin to explain that I have ever had. Is just that gift of being with my friend, being there, holding space with her, talking, having these wonderful conversations. Later on, we're going to talk about books that you could read about having conversations with people that are dying or in the death process. And it's very enlightening. But I didn't really even need a book, because she was just so willing and open about what was going on. So the takeaway that I had was that I had this gift of time with her. I had this gift of awareness that it is my own selfishness that wanted her to stay with me and with us, with the world, stay in the physical. And it was her gentle acceptance of what was happening, and just the flow of allowing this to happen, because she, on a soul level, understood that whatever she had come to do, she had done. And was it too soon? Of course, it's always too soon, right? As far as the people that are left behind. But for her, she was ready. And so she took care of everything. She actually gave away a lot of her, jewelry and her clothes to her family and her friends. I have some things of hers on today, because she wanted to know. She just didn't want to blanket give it away. She wanted just, I want to know who's wearing my stuff. It was so cool. And she did all of the kind of like the financial stuff that, like canceling credit cards and all this other stuff, things that would take some pressure off from her family to, whenever she had transitioned. She was really an amazing example of someone who was in that sacredness, in that grace of surrender, of acceptance, of love, of transition. So there was closure. There was time to say goodbye. For months, that there were people coming by, or families visiting, people stopping by, friends bringing food. It was really amazing. The whole time. It was a very short time, but within that time, she saw everybody she wanted to see, or she could see, and she got to say goodbye, and we got to say goodbye. And I think that's one of the things that people that get a prognosis of terminal illness, the first thing you want to do is fight it. And believe me, she would have, had there been really any true quality of life prolonging thing that could have happened, she would have been up for that. But since there wasn't, what was there to do, to push back on? Nothing. So when you're in that place, if you don't have any fear, it's a beautiful experience. It's just, your body is preparing for your soul to leave. And she left very peacefully in her sleep. So that's the gift. If you know someone, or you are someone in this particular situation, it's beautiful. The joy that I can feel in my grief, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, but the joy that I can feel is visceral, and it's here in my heart. And even though there's a lump in my throat, there's joy in my heart. And that's the gift. That's the gift. So I want to bring in some perspective from Diane, because this was my raison d'etre to do this show today. Your work with children on hospice, Diane, has to be so different from an adult who's lived their life already, right? When the young die, gosh, the grief is profound. So what's been your experience working with terminal clients and their families, especially terminal children?
Yeah. Before I answer that, Anahata, I just want to acknowledge and commend you for being present. Because to me, that's the most important thing that we can do. We don't always know, what do I do? But it's not about perfection, it's about presence, and you're making it speakable. I'm always quoting Mr. Rogers: to make it speakable is to make it livable. And I'll come back to that. No matter how old we are, and how we make it lots of different ways, and with the family. And so thank you for being there and for being present the way you were. That's not a small thing. And it does make a difference in terms of the before, during, and after, and the grief. And I think in being able to connect with that joy. And I also think that we feel that ideally we get to say goodbye before or during. And I think that we can always have the conversations after.
That's true.
And so, it's a continuing bond. It's a continuing conversation. And so knowing that can be helpful in terms of, I can come back to this, whatever the pieces are that are pearls that are precious to you, to that person, to that family. Yeah. Yeah. And so, yes, and working with the kiddos, I started working with families in adult hospice families, so that involved a lot of kids, but then eventually I transitioned into working with the kids. They weren't all in hospice, they were some, but most of them were seriously ill. And I also want to mention that this work wouldn't be possible if it weren't for the teams, the wonderful teams. And right, for me personally, also the spiritual belief that I think is aligned with yours, that there's a reason for this, because otherwise it still is, even when we have that spiritual, it's still, how can this happen? How is this happening? How is this, for our kids? It's so hard for the adults. And sometimes, again, depending on all of those other factors, sometimes kids are a little more open to the conversation and less scared than
That's interesting.
adults are.
It's the innocence of it, right? The younger
Yes.
they are, probably the easier it is, because they're still have access to the part of them that is the soul.
Yeah.
We come through the veil of forgetfulness, right? But from about what, birth until, was it 2 or 3 years, you can still kind of have that access to the knowing, you haven't quite forgotten where you came from.
Mhm.
Do you think that that's true or no?
I don't know. It sounds true. It feels true. But yeah. I've
Do you have, is there a little, an anecdote or inspiring story that you have
Yes.
with one of your children that
Yeah.
you worked with?
um
Could you tell us about that?
I want to share. This is so a lot of I'm a book lady and a toy lady and an art lady, and a lot of my books, a lot of my stories are connected to books. And this is one. It's just Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, But this particular version has the child in the story gets to go up, falls asleep, goes up, and goes to visit the star. And so then they come back. And so I would sing it, Twinkle, twinkle, little star. And no hesitation, it doesn't have to be a good voice, but having a conversation and slowing things down as you have the conversation. So inviting them into what do you think it might be like, and taking a lot of time to do that. I'm giving you a brief summary, What do you think it would be like to visit the star and to come back? And then to create stars out of paper, for example.
Yeah.
With a big heart. A lot of my art has had to do with heart and stars, but so I talk about the child with in a star, and what are some of the things that are the strongest things about this child with the family, And so with one family, I'm thinking about, little dude was Ray Ray, and the family wouldn't mind my sharing his name. It was very, very, very hard for the family to vision his leaving, but this was helpful in terms of being able to say goodbye. And another thing that I have, we created a pillowcase made out of a shirt that had a heart pillow that had his family's name on it. And when the hospice team would come in to say their goodbyes, this was a process, then they would take a little piece of stuffing and put it in the pillow. And so they were blessing it. And so when he finally died, then we were able to continue the pillow, to seal the pillow. And so the family, we've done that with teddy bears and with all kinds of art supplies, and so it doesn't make it easy, but it makes it more livable. It's that piece of to make it speakable is to make it livable, one little piece at a time, one little piece at a time.
You have something to hold on to. Yeah.
Right. And
That
with kids,
the memory has something to hold on to, right?
right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with kids to offer them tools and this kind of, they're just so transparent. I remember having a kid with me. This was decades ago, different role, but he was processing the death of a loved one and sudden death. And we were at McDonald's and he drops into the balls. I don't know if they still have that at McDonald's.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
He's playing dead, when my mother died, again, this is decades ago, it was fairly suddenly. My little one, we were at the kitchen table and he just asked me for a Play-Doh. We had had no conversation before or afterwards, and what he created was this little, grandma's gone to heaven now. This is his grandma's an angel. So we have so many books that talk. There's a book, one of my favorites is actually Grandma's Gone to Live in the Stars, which is very non-dramatic. It's just like it's grandma's time and she's saying goodbye to all of the things, and the people and the animals are the only ones who know that she's leaving. Peaceful, very peaceful. And she leaves. She says goodbye to the objects, the things she's created, and as she's saying goodbye, her wings are growing and she's becoming a star. So at the end, it's like grandma's gone to live in the stars. So the family looks up. Of course, this has to resonate with the belief system of the family. So that's one of the important things, is to make it resonate, to make it familiar for them, something that makes sense. And so when I brought this book to the family after the little dude had died, the grandma had heard me read it to him. Of course, she didn't want him to go, but it was a connection. And another book that's been tremendously helpful. It's called The Invisible String. And I have, it's a whole series of them. This is The Invisible Web, which is part of the same set. And so it makes it speakable in a very different way, because we're talking about the love connection.
Right.
No matter where you are in the world, or even if you're in heaven or wherever you are, the love connection never ends. And so we've made so many art projects and just playful stuff. Yeah, if you were thinking about your friend right now and tugging on her string, Anna, what color would your string between you and her be?
A really bright blue.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful.
Really bright blue.
So
it's
that's
called All Love Blue.
Okay. And you're mentioning the blue. I have another little tool in front of me. This one.
Hey,
Yeah.
let's pause for just a minute, take a quick break. And when we
Yes.
come back, we're actually going to be talking about tools for walking the transition journey. I mean, you've already started it, but let's get into this. And because I've got books and recommendations and grieving exercises and, those kinds of things that can be helpful, as you say, provide a tangible way to process and to have memories of, right? To hold memories. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Hey, everybody. Oh, my goodness. We have got talk radio for all of it.
Really, thank you for blazing the trail for women in talk radio and just being such an inspiration to me and so many other people. What you're doing is so awesome. And, without people like you there to really step out of the box and go for it, I don't know if someone like me would have ever ended up here, but I'm so happy to be here. And I just want to thank you for everything you're doing. You're one of my major inspirations.
Hi, welcome back to the Crystal Coach Show. I'm your host, Anahata, and we're talking with my special guest today, Diane Cogorno, who is a wonderful, beautiful soul who works in hospice and hospice care and counseling and bereavement. And it's just, she has shown us so many ways in which death is not a 5-letter word. and can be used to educate and to process, and as a way in which, you can get things felt in a way that you've never felt them before. I mentioned the joy in the grief. I did have an instance where my friend, as I told you before, we were always connected on a soul level. We would think about each other, and then we would one of us would call. I mean, it was inevitable. So a few days after I found out she had transitioned, I was just minding my own business, and all of a sudden I felt her energy, and it was as if she was sharing with me where she was. And it was like I started to like have an effervescent experience, like I was in a glass of champagne with all these bubbles just bubbling up from the bottom of my feet all the way up to the top of my head and out my head. And I was just in this stream of joy. And I remember thinking about there's a spiritual called Peace Like a River. And one of the lyrics is, I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. And I did. And I think of that, and I carry that with me in that experience. Have you ever had anything like that, Diane?
I have not personally, but after my mother died, my friend Christina, she was driving, and she had what she described as the presence of my mother. It was in her car and visited her. And what I've found is that often when it's too close to us, it's sometimes one step removed from the immediate. So I have learned how to get out of the way when I feel, oh, okay, this is a message that is, who am I to say? Get out of the way and just let somebody know when you're the recipient, because sometimes it's the sideways, and lots and lots and lots of what we call the God winks.
Yes.
Which are the little things that happen that make us go, oh, that's it, and so countless God winks with me, with community, and being able to again speak it and share it. Community connection with community is incredibly powerful and important. Yes. Yeah.
Good. Well, before the break, we were talking about some of the support things that can be used to process grief and just to hold memories of our loved ones. You had mentioned a couple of other books. Did you have any other books that you wanted to mention? I have one that I used when I was I got this because when I read the I don't know, the promotion about it, it felt like this was something I needed to read before I visited my friend. And so on the airplane, I read this. It's called The Good Goodbye by Maureen P. Kelly and Julie M. Yingling, both of them PhDs. It's through the Hay House. It's really a very practical book about the transformative power of conversation at the end of life. So if you're looking for suggestions on how to talk about death with your loved ones, this is a good way to start. And if you're in the terminal process, like Diane, who has used all these different books and tools to help communicate and get a sense of, or get the person comfortable with where they're going. So do you have any other books aside from the ones that you just shared with us before the break?
Yes, and I do have, this is a tool that's called 5 Wishes, which is used a lot in the community, and it's something that you can use. I've completed mine, not completely, and some of it is permanent, some of it is I have stickers on it, but I've bought copies for family members and shared copies. It's a way also to have playful conversations about what I would like to have happened. For example, I've told my some of my family friends, if ice cream at the end, if it doesn't disturb my dying process, probably ice cream. Or
chocolate.
I write copy for me. But if also is if when I die, I'm going to paint with the clouds. Somebody's doing all that painting. It's beautiful. Sometimes I'm part of I'm going to ask to be on the cloud team, and so beginning to have those conversations playfully. And just so you know, the 5 wishes is not just available for adults. There's also for adolescents and for little ones.
Oh, cool.
So you can imagine, having those conversations. There are so many books, but there's a few more that I do want to share with you. When My Time Comes with Diane Rehm is to have a conversation in advance, and that doesn't, you don't have to necessarily agree with what she's asking is, can we make the decision in terms of when it's our time to die in the presence of grief. It was written by my colleague and friend and one of my family of heart, Dorothy Beckvar. After her son died unexpectedly, and it has lots of wonderful information. The next place is a playful, it's a kid's book, and there's so many, but it's an easy tool to use. I actually loaned my copy to a friend who is on hospice, and an adult who's open to reading kids stuff, and asking him, what do you think will happen in the next place? So those are some of the immediate tools. I also wanted to mention, I was showing you, silly things like Wimberly Worried is a kid's book. But it's like, what are you worried about? And when you can talk about the worries, you can be as silly as, okay, with the kids, but also with the grown-ups, is how big is your worry about this? Or the married boxes. But whenever I do the worries, then I say, well, what about the happies? What makes you happy? Little happy, middle happy,
Big happy. Yeah.
big happy, and really big happy. And we're surprised by sometimes the answers, but it's a conversation that we can come back to, we can continue to come back to. And another tool that I love is, I learned from my sister Kathy took a picture of her friend's child's artwork. She was visiting. It was a heart, and they called it a heart map. And they gave me permission to share that idea. And so it's just such a, you can do it as practical in so many ways, but then I started using it with some of my work with the kiddos. One of the kids literally had half a heart, and so they drew their heart.
Oh, wow.
But it was full of other stuff. The brother, is what fills my heart. So it's a conversation of talking about what makes it, but then I was able to, with permission, share pictures with other kids. And one of the kids who was going to have a heart transplant saw other kids who were doing heart stuff, and so she was able to, so that community piece, that connection in communities. And another one of my favorites is Rainbow Feelings of Cancer, and I probably have read this one hundreds of times. And it's not just about cancer. I like to say it's about rainbow feelings of heart stuff. And when I'm reading it, and I have the opportunity to talk about, every other page is what makes you, okay, this is scared, what makes you safe, so what makes you strong. So, and then I've read this in sometimes 4 generations of family. Wow. And have people raise their head, who's feeling this way? So it makes it speakable. And the kids are sometimes surprised that the parents are also feeling, or they ask the parents, what are they admiring about their children? So it's, again, coming to that connection piece and affirmation piece, however we can do it.
It's beautiful.
Toilet paper rolls that have, it's all just a heart. This one is a blue heart because this was Heavenly Herda, who approached me when she was terminal after we had worked with her husband. When he was dying, and she called to say, and so going back to the invisible strings, this is how it is, as silly and as playful, as important as this,
Beautiful. I just wanted to interject because I said this at the beginning and we really haven't had some time to even talk about it, but I'll just take a brush stroke with the alternatives for care and the way you can, bring ritual and ceremony into the dying process. It depends on the laws in your state, if you're in the United States, or the laws wherever you live, of whether or not you can have a green burial that is to be placed in the ground without any preservatives and allow the enzymes and the bugs to break down and compost your body. There's various ways. There are actually some green cemeteries that you can like be put in a fetal position, the body put in a fetal position, and into like a biodegradable container, and a pine tree or something placed on your head. So your body is nourishing the growth of a tree, which I think is pretty cool. But there's the if you want to, advice and planning and that kind of thing, death doulas now are a thing, and there's licensed death doulas, and that these are folks that advise you and help you plan and all these kind of things. So there's resources out there. If you're curious about them, just you can Google them and get more information, as I did. But there's just a plethora of choices now, and it's a beautiful thing when you can have a process that you can involve your family and your community in your whole death journey and your transition into the next life. I do have a couple of, because it wouldn't be the Crystal Coast show if I didn't talk about a stone or two. I do have a couple of recommendations if you're in this process. Whether it's a raw form or in a polished form, rose quartz is such a beautiful vibration. It's like the highest frequency of love. It's just, it's all about love. It's emotional healing. It connects you with the divine love, and it's self-love, and it's like giving yourself a hug. So if you're in a place where you need that kind of support, rose quartz is so good for that. Aquamarine is really good if you feel stuck and you just need to let go. Just be able to surrender and let go. Aquamarine supports that. Zoisite is this beautiful green thing. It always comes usually with incorporated with ruby. And so that's really, there's a lot of things going on here. We've got emotional healing and perceiving the gift of breath, and while recognizing the illusion of death. So this is another thing that's supportive of the process. Fulgurite, which is formed when lightning strikes the sand in the Sahara. It makes it fuses the silica into a tube, and it carries the transformative energy that leaving the body requires. So that it's a really strong storm element about change and transformation. It is the transformation stone. So, well, moldavite is the transformation stone, but this is all about surrendering to the process. Last but not least, we have selenite, which is a resonance with your higher self. So as you transition out of your body, this higher self is there to catch you and to give you guidance on the way. I don't think my friend needed that. I had some stones with me when I visited her, but it seems to me that she was well prepared for her journey, and I'm very, very grateful for that. I do want to close. Do you have any closing thoughts, Diane? I have a poem that I'd like to read that I feel kind of sums up everything that we've just talked about today.
Yeah, I have a
We got 3 minutes.
pink quartz. Okay.
Oh, pink quartz.
And here's my little pink quartz heart, and sometimes a stone, one of those, healing stones. And
Yeah.
my closing piece is Many Winters. I didn't show you this book, but
Yeah.
there's a page that says, "Today is a good day to die."
Yeah.
And that's a poem that has become very powerful for my family and that I've shared with a lot of people. And to honor the American Indians. So this is from a book called Many Winters. Today is a very good day to die. Every living thing is in harmony with me. And it goes on. And it was something that I quoted to my sister, the best that I remembered. She was leaving us. So thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. This is a poem called Instructions Before Visiting Earth, and it's by a man named James McCree. In the event that you wake up and find your soul separated from source and manifest into material form, don't panic. Your condition is only temporary. You have been selected for the opportunity of human incarnation. This 3D simulation is designed to break up the monotony of eternity by giving you a fully immersive experience as a distinct ego identity. Your body will serve as your physical avatar as you navigate a dense and dramatic reality. There will be many distractions, causing you to forget your true nature and origin. You will experience a range of emotions, from joy to loneliness to despair. But remember, no matter what trials or traumas you encounter, your soul remains perfectly safe. At times, you may feel lost or afraid. This is totally normal. If you ever need guidance, simply slow down your busy mind and bring your awareness to the quiet place inside yourself. On this planet, nothing is permanent. People and things will come and go. You will fall in love and form sentimental attachments only to lose everything you hold dear. So cling to nothing too tightly, even yourself. And when it's time to let go with grace, for nothing is owned, only borrowed. As you walk among the people on the planet, try to be a good guest. Tread lightly. Remember that you are only visiting. Don't make a mess. Listen more than you speak. Give more than you take. Don't keep your soft heart locked inside a glass cage, protected from wear and tear. You'll never make it out alive, and time passes quickly. So come back with some battle scars and good stories to tell. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Diane, for being here with us. Thank you, producer Emily, for working with us. And peace to all, and love and joy. Until next time, take care.
Thank you.
You have been listening to The Crystal Coach Show, helping you live every day with clarity, guidance, and practical wisdom. With me, your host, Anahata. Tune in every first and third Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time on TransformationTalkRadio.com, where we channel divine wisdom through stories of service, spirituality, and stones for self-care. Feel connected and reside in the vibration of love on The Crystal Coach Show. For more information and to become the best version of yourself, visit thecrystalcoach.com. That's thecrystalcoach.com. See you next time.